here we go, our first webinar. So today we're going to talk about the following items. We're going to talk about the conveyor safety order, what went good, what went bad, where we're at with it being completed. Pre-operational declarations, who's been good, who's been bad. No, we're not going to pick on anybody in particular. We're just going to talk about what's been submitted, some of the issues we noticed with some of the ones that have been submitted. Lift 151, 52, and 53, we're going to update you on those. We're going to let you know what the new redesign is looking like, and hopefully we'll be rolling it out for this year's spring seminar. We're going to review incidents that have been reported today so far this ski season, from November 1st to February 1st, so 3 months worth. And then Nafsha Hall, the safety manager, will be giving you a brief update. And there'll be some questions at the end. You have the ability to send questions in, so please do that. We will try and answer them. Any questions we don't get to, we will reply to you by email. So we'll get moving. So the conveyor safety order. So just a brief history of the safety order. It was issued on June 28th, 2017. It was issued due to 2 serious worker-related incidents that occurred in early 2017. One of those was a fatality, and the other one was serious upper body injuries that occurred to lift mechanics. These incidents and previous conveyor incidents in BC, we had a serious incident a couple of years before that. And then there's been other incidents around the world. There was a fatality in Quebec, another one in Colorado, another one in France, and other serious injuries. So we put our heads together and we said, we've got to do something more than just posting lockout procedures and training lift mechanics. So we wanted something that would provide additional safety for lift mechanics when they were inspecting, servicing, maintaining passenger conveyors. So here's a quick update where we're at. For the most part, everybody's complied with the safety order in full. Everything's installed, they've been inspected, they're working fine. We have 3 conveyors that are partially completed. Those ones have all the interlock switches installed. They just don't have the maintenance start and stop function in yet. But if a hatch is open, the conveyor just won't run. And then we have 3 more. Unfortunately, they're still waiting for parts, and so they haven't complied at all. And that's through no fault of the operators. It's been a manufacturer supply issue. Those conveyors and the ones that are partially completed were all issued variances extending the completion date of the safety order. We work directly with the operators who experience many challenges and delays. Everybody who's on this call listening in know there was a lot of challenges. I don't think anybody can say they didn't have a few challenges, no matter who they went with. We feel very confident that this corrective action was in the best interest of the operators, and it's a very big safety benefit for everybody. So I'm going to show you some pictures here. The alterations were provided by 3 different parties. One was Sunkid for their units. The other was Magic Carpet for their units. And then Derek Uttenberg, independent electrical engineer, came up with a design that could be put into any type of units. And they were put in actually into Magic Carpets, Sunkids, and another Kaiser, an Italian conveyor that isn't made anymore. So I actually did the inspection of the conveyor that I'm going to show you the pictures of. This was a Magic Carpet that had a Derek Uttenberg alteration done to it. So this picture is the main control panel of inside the lift shack. It's had some additional key switches and lights added, and one of the main functions it's had an HDMI screen added. This screen can show you which hatch is open, where the faults are. It shows the speed, the stopping distances on this one actually, because it has hydraulic tensioning. It shows you what the tensioning pressure is. This is a picture of the return station on that conveyor. As you can see, the red switches are the interlock switches. All 3 companies that were providing these alteration kits basically went with the same style, for the most part, the same type of equipment. This is the maintenance start-stop control. This one is a two-part function. You squeeze the gray part on the front here, part way in with your hand, and then you push the button on the top down with your thumb part way. If you don't push enough, the conveyor won't start. If you push too much, the conveyor stops. One of the other manufacturers went with one you just squeeze and you have a key switch you turn as well. They have to be done at the same time. Here, this is the bottom outdoor panel with the remote start plugged in. One of the items that we dealt with at a lot of locations was how long did the cable, the wire have to be so that you could operate it, view what you wanted, but still be in a safe location. On this conversion, on all 5 of their conveyors, it worked great for the top and the bottom where they had them plugged in. They went with a meter-long cable. I know some, it was a little different between the top and the bottom. Our safety officers worked on site with the contractors to come up with a solution. On this alteration style, there's an encoder added that runs off the top drive drum. And this encoder provides overspeed monitoring, rollback monitoring, and it also gives feedback to the computer for the speed, and it can provide the stopping distance and stopping times based on the impulses it counts. So a lot of this system is almost what you would have on a regular chairlift or a gondola. We didn't have to go to any enforcement actions for the conveyor safety order. Everybody worked hard to comply with it. I know there was a lot of feedback back and forth. There was some concerns. You know, there's still some people that maybe don't agree wholly with what we did, but we felt we had to do something to protect the mechanics. So I'd like to say it was a great effort by everyone involved, and thank you very much to everybody who was involved in it for your hard work and working with us. Pre-operational declarations. So in the spring of 2017, we met in Lake Louise with the passenger ropeway industry, BC only meeting, and one of the topics was pre-operational declarations. You know, they call them safety examination checklists in Alberta. In Alberta, they've been doing them for 10 plus years, probably even longer than that. Ontario has a similar type of form. So at that meeting, everybody bought in. They said, yeah, you come up with a form, submit it, and we'll start sending them in. You know, so what we said was we would have a soft target for the fall of 2017 for the declarations. We would roll out, and it would be voluntary use. So in the fall of 17, we rolled out 4 forms for above surface ropeways. That includes chairlifts, gondolas. For surface ropeways, T-bars, platters. That would include any surface ropeway that had secondary carriers. We rolled out another one that had for wire rope tows, including secondary carriers, and one for passenger conveyors. We didn't roll out one for industrial ropeways or reversibles at that time, but I'll get to that in the next slide. So they were on a voluntary basis. Some people submitted them, not a lot, not as many as we had hoped, but that's fine. We know everybody's busy, but we had a little bit of feedback, some comments. We actually found a few issues when we reviewed them where people had made a couple errors in their maintenance program. And so that was showing these declarations were doing what they were supposed to do. In the spring of 2018, we informed the industry that these declarations are going to become mandatory, and there will be now 5 forms. So we added a 5th form for reversible ropeways and industrial ropeways. Those forms are all available on our website. They're a fillable PDF, so you don't have to fill them out with a pen and paper. You can do everything on your computer. We issued an information bulletin stating that these were mandatory. The way that they're made mandatory is they're based on Annex D of the CSA Z9814. Annex D is adopted as mandatory through the Elevating Devices Safety Regulation on the very last page as when we adopted the Z98 2014 in November of 2015. So basically the declarations are just an expanded version of Annex D from the Z98. So where are we at with them being submitted? 87% of them have been submitted, and they've been added to our spreadsheet and attached to the unit's history file in our computer system. So they're there. The remaining 13%, we've had a few operators that haven't submitted. Our safety officers are working with them to make sure they are submitted. There's a few units that aren't operating this year, a couple of ski hills that didn't open at all this year, and there was a couple other ones where the area submitted all of their declarations, and they had a couple ropeways or conveyors that opened a little later, and they kind of missed getting those into us. But our safety officers are following up with everybody that hasn't submitted them. So I encourage you, please, if you missed one or something happened, please get them submitted. Feedback from the industry, for the industry, I should say. Here's a few minor highlights that we've noticed as we reviewed them. Good thing to know is we're not reviewing every one of them. We're doing a random audit of them. Just picking a few. Our safety officers go through, they have a look. If there's issues, they'll be contacting you to follow up on those issues. So we found on quite a few, the information on the first page, we were asking about your ropeway trainer, who the ropeway trainer was and what their certification number was. What we found was, and we found this in the past, is some areas had the thought that if someone's taken lift 151, then they're fine to train your lift operators. That's only part of what you have to have. You have to take lift 150 and pass it. Then you have to make application to get a certification from Technical Safety BC. Part of that is you fill out an application, you provide proof that you've taken lift 150 with your marks from Selkirk College, and then you provide a work history, your experience training passenger ropeway and conveyor operators. We review all that, then we issue you a certification with a certification number. That's what we're looking for on this form. So we're working with the areas where they didn't meet that full requirement. Missing or incomplete carrier NDT information. In this area, we were looking for what carriers did you NDT this season? We want to know which ones you did. Did you do 1s and 5s? Did you do 6 and 10s? Did you do 1 to 30 in a row? That way, we'll have a history over 5 years, and we can look at these declarations over time, and we can see, yeah, they're doing the ones they're supposed to do. And that. Haul rope MRT not being completed within the required time period. Sorry, stepped out of the picture. This is an ongoing issue. It's not a big issue, but it's a minor one that happens. The code says you shall MRT the haul rope of your above surface ropeway every 3 years or 4,000 operating hours. So for most ropeways, the 3 years, no problem. You don't get to the 4,000. But where we get into a problem is with the ropeways that operate year-round. And then you're getting to your 4,000 hours before the 3-year time frame. And the code also says if you hit the 4,000 hours in the middle of a season, you still need to do the test. Well, that's okay for a detachable ropeway, but if you have a fixed grip, you've got all your chairs on the line now. You got to take them all off to test your rope. So we did notice that when we looked at the operating hours on the ropeway, and then we looked at the operating hours of the last MRT test, that they had exceeded 4,000 hours. So this is just a reminder to everybody, you have to keep that in mind. And then we saw some inaccurate stopping times and distances. The stopping times and distances we want you to put on these declarations are what you did when you did your checks before you opened for this season or next season, for that operating season. We don't want you to put down the results from a load test you did 3 years ago. We want to know that you, after you've done your maintenance, you've serviced your brakes, you've done everything, you go back, you check your times and stopping distances, and you record those. And these are empty. Okay, so the declarations are good. We're very happy. You know, we encourage your feedback. If we don't hear from you, we don't know there's a problem. You know, some of the things might be, you know, right now we say we want them before you operate. You know, I've heard a little bit of comments from people. Maybe it should be we give you 2 weeks grace, a week's grace to get them in once you're operating. You know, but we need this feedback. So I encourage you to email us your feedback. You know, come and see us at our booth at Canada West this spring in Whistler. you know, provide that feedback, because if we don't get any feedback, we assume everybody's good with it and we'll just keep working the way we are. All right, so the next thing we talked a lot about was Lift 151, 2, and 3, the lift mechanic courses. You know, they haven't really had a big update since they were originally designed. So one of the topics that's come up at our spring meetings every year with the ropeway industry is, what can we do to make these better? One of the concerns was the people that came to the Canada West was the people that took the course, especially if they were taking all 3 of them, they basically spent all their time in those courses for 3 days. They never got outside. They sat in a classroom. So about 5 years ago, to make things easier, the Lift 150 course went from being offered once a year for ropeway trainers to being an online course. And that made it so much easier for all the operators and also for us at Technical Safety BC, because people could go in. If someone quit in the summertime, your trainer, the only one you had, someone else could take that course and get their certification before the ski season started. So the thought was, let's put the lift mechanics courses, 51, 52, and 53 online. Let's make it easier for people to take these. So these are the people that have been working on this. Technical Safety BC, Adarsa from Alberta, the Canada West Ski Area Association, Selkirk College. We've been working together to update these. To go with that, we needed a budget. So we sat down with Selkirk and we said, what kind of money do you think we need here? And one of the things Bob Fall did before he retired last year, he said, this is where I think we need to be. Came up with a budget. So Technical Safety BC, Adarsa, the Safety Codes Council in Alberta, Canada West Ski Area Association, and Selkirk College put the money up, and we started this project with a kitty of $40,000. So we felt very good that this could help us move forward. Any cost overruns of it, the budget went higher and that. The other great thing we did was Selkirk College hired Bob Bell to work on this. We all realized internally we didn't have the manpower, the experienced manpower at Technical Safety BC or at Adarsa to commit to working on a course like this. We needed to bring someone in that could commit to it. So Selkirk hired Bob Bell. Most of you probably know Bob Bell. He was an inspector with the BC government for aerial tramways for 22 years, 7 years with Goujon Insurance as an inspector, ran vice president of operations at Marmot Basin, a wide variety of experience, been in the ropeway industry for 40 plus years. So Bob has a great wealth of knowledge. So Bob has been working for Selkirk. He did some preliminary design stuff that myself and Dean McKernan from Adarsa reviewed, gave our feedback. Jamie Tattersfield helped as well, former general manager of Sun Peaks. And now what we've got is, we've got 151 being tested online by some people in BC and Alberta from ski areas doing the online. So basically it's an online course, takes about 3 hours. You go through it. There's a lot of voiceover from Bob Bell, a lot of pictures. A lot of it is based on the original PowerPoints we used to use when we taught it at the seminars. We're hoping to have it rolling out in March where people will go in online and start taking these courses. The idea is you're going to do the classroom portion online before you come to Canada West in the spring. So when you come to Canada West in the spring, we're going to have more hands-on. You're going to come in, we'll sit down for an hour in the morning, talk about the online portion, then we're going to head out in the field for 4 hours. For the Lift 151, we're going to have a rope tow set up. We're going to talk about rope twists, splice handles. We're going to look at shiv assemblies. We're going to have spring boxes to look at, rope grip wear, talk about relocating equipment, talk about splices, about controls, you know, things like that. Go look at passenger conveyors. Whistler's great. They've got conveyors by every manufacturer and every vintage. And then for 52, we'll go out to a fixed grip chairlift. We'll talk about the things you run into, about setting brakes up, doing brake torque tests, more hands-on, the stuff that the people taking the classes have said they needed more of. And then for the detachables, same thing. We'll go into a detachable station. We'll talk about the machinery, the grips opening and closing, what the safety issues are on the different equipment we look at. Then in the afternoon, after lunch, you'll come back into the class and you'll write the exam. And we're going to, hopefully this year, it's going to work out that way. Our fallback plan is if we don't have all the courses done and ready to be delivered online, that we would still do them the way we have done in the past. It will be a classroom session. Okay, so that's lift 151, 2, and 3. We feel that we're moving forward on that, and we're really happy with the progress we've made so far. All right, now I'm going to talk about some incidents. As I said a little earlier, this is just a short window. It's not the whole year, like you'll see on this slide with the number of incidents we've had in a year. This is just for 3 months, but it's partially the 3 busiest months for the Ropeway season, especially December and January. So right now we're standing at 56 reported to us for Ropeways. I'm going to show a little video here. This is a video from YouTube. It's amazing, some of the videos on YouTube. I went through a whole bunch till I found this one. We're going to show it to you without the sound. I'm going to provide some comments as we go. It's just kind of showing why incidents happen on Ropeways, more from what the public does wrong. So you can roll that. So here we see people getting off a chairlift with the safety bar down. Where was the operator? Didn't they notice, oh, here comes the operator out of the shack now. Then we get a surface lift, and we watch up here, someone falls off, the other one hangs on to the T for a while and gets dragged. This is why we love conveyors nowadays, because we don't have as many surface lifts. Here we see probably maybe a beginner snowboarder learning how to ride the T-bar. We got the operator here trying to help him load, trying to hold him up. Nope. Oh, operator trips, falls down, lands on his wrist. Possibly a work-safe claim could happen. Then we see a conveyor. Conveyor's just starting. Someone's on it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Falls over backwards. We get a few incidents every year on conveyors. And, of course, the classic one, come in too early, hit by the chair. Chair swings. People at the load fall down to get out of the way. Operators hit the stop at least. And then here, the lady getting off too early. Was the unload mark clear? Was the breakover fine? Someone else being dragged. Or are we lagging? Oh, sorry. Someone being dragged by a platter lift here. Yeah. Another beginner learning how to ride a platter. And then here, the classic, getting off the chair late. This is a great one. Watch. Just keep watching. Keep watching. Oh, here comes the operator into the picture through the safety gate to stop the lift. I wonder where they were, off talking to their friends. And someone else trying to ride a T-bar. They're falling down. At least the good thing is you'll see here is they let go of the T-bar so we don't get an incident. Another person riding platter. Well, I shouldn't really say riding, more like being dragged by a platter. That's why we love conveyors. Lady, she might try to get off a little bit too early and gets hit by the chair, falls down on a fixed grip lift. This one, probably from Scotland, I think. It was probably a little road rash after this one, being dragged by the platter on the dry snow. Here, someone getting off late, hitting the safety gate post, and that's a perfect example if you've got a long safety gate, why the support post should be something that's flexible and moves out of the way. People getting off the lift, and there's a lot of people standing around. The operator should be out there telling them to clear the area. And another person bound and determined to make it to the top. Someone jumping on midstream. I'm not quite sure where this is. As it goes along here, you'll see there's a blue sign. So it's probably in Canada. Maybe it's down under Australia, New Zealand, because they do follow our code down there. Here's someone falling. You see the operator telling them to stay on the ground, to stay out of the way. Some people getting off on a side unload here. Someone falling into the safety gate post. There. And that's it. So we just wanted to show you that little video. I'm sorry if we had a bit of a lag in I was looking at one computer and it appears we were lagging a little bit. So this just gives you an idea of why incidents can happen. Anybody that's worked at ski areas long enough has seen many of these things. So falls from carriers. Well, here's a picture from a ski area. This person was doing this on purpose to show off. Only problem was they couldn't get back up in the seat after they were hanging there. This was actually posted on the Ski Hills Facebook site with a "Isn't this funny" caption on it. When I noticed it, I phoned the person that ran the ski hill and I said, maybe you should take that off your Facebook site or put a caption that says this, you shouldn't be doing this. That person actually fell off and luckily they didn't get injured. So here's where we are with, excuse me, with the types of equipment involved. As usual, fixed grip chairlifts lead the way for the type of lift the incident occurs on. Then we've got detachables, T-bars, a few on gondolas still, conveyors, and a surface platter. We haven't had any on handle toes or double reversibles so far this year, so that makes a total of 56. Here's a description. Fall unloading, fall loading make up the bulk of it. We have some caught by carrier, like you saw in that video, people coming in a little late, getting hit by the carrier. Collision between carriers, that was on a gondola. Contact with other, that was a snowcat backing into a tower. A few deropements retained, those were all on surface lifts, usually by people unloading incorrectly or skiing out of the track. A couple mechanical, electrical items. One passenger left on a ropeway on a gondola. We seem to get one of those every year. We keep reminding people we don't want this. Shouldn't be happening. You really got to drill it into your staff what their end of the day closing procedures are and making sure they're being followed. Because luckily the last few we've had, no one's been left on more than about half an hour because they had a cell phone, or if it was on a chairlift, someone doing sweeps saw them on the lift. But a few years ago, as most of you probably know, we did have someone stay on a gondola all night. Fortunately, they weren't injured because it wasn't that cold out. And then struck by falling snow or ice, just a reminder, you get big buildups on your towers, you need to clear them off, because if they do fall off and if it gets to be frozen, it can hurt somebody. And then we get to the cause. So we review the incident reports. We don't go to all the incidents to do an on-site investigation. As you can see, the large are attributed to the passenger, a large majority of them, operator error. But I do have an asterisk there because on some of them we read it could be a combination of both caused the incident. Maybe someone came in late, maybe the operator wasn't paying enough attention, little combination of both. Electrical fault, operational, mechanical, and incorrect assembly of a shiv assembly that was actually on that one. So injuries to date, we've had 3 insignificant, 26 minor, 17 moderate. Damage to date, we've had 1 damaged carrier, 1 damaged tower, 1 damaged drive machinery, and 1 damaged shiv assembly. Evacuations, 1 evac drive and 1 manual evacuation. And the manual evac was related to a power failure, and they had cleared the whole line except for 3 carriers, and they had a low voltage fault that caused them not to be able to run the ropeway on evac anymore. And they decided just to rope evac the last 3 chairs while they were troubleshooting the problem. So just a few incidents of note, things we'd like to mention to you. Incorrect assembly of a tower shiv assembly. This was on a fixed grip chairlift, could apply to a detachable as well. Different vintages use different style of components. On this one, it appears the wrong end cap was used on, it was incompatible with the shiv assembly it went on. Allowed the bolts to work loose and the end cap to come off. So just a reminder to your staff, to you, you know, you got to make sure the parts you're using are the correct ones. What year was that lift built in? Some areas there might have vintages of lifts that it could be 30 years difference from when they were built and that. So it's important that your lift mechanics are putting the right components on. Next one's electrical failure required the use of an auxiliary drive, which overheated, which then required the use of the evacuation drive, There was a problem with the evacuation drive that when it was fully loaded, it wouldn't run at full speed, which was 0.5 meter a second. It would only run at 0.1 meter of a second. So they kept running it till the auxiliary drive cooled down enough. They switched back to the auxiliary drive and they unloaded the rest of the lift. In the end, it was still only about 45 minutes, so it wasn't terrible. The ski area had knowledgeable, trained staff there that were able to figure out what the issues were and deal with them. But this is still a good reminder about running your evac drives every 2 weeks, starting them up, or every week starting them up, every 2 weeks hooking your lift up and running them. The other thing you should really think about is when you do a 5-year load test, the last thing you should do is unload the lift using your auxiliary drive and or your evac drive. Make sure it'll run for half a revolution with that full load pulling it and getting the people off the lift. You know, running them empty sometimes doesn't, we know it doesn't simulate the true when it's actually needed. In my experience, and a lot of other experienced people can tell you that it just seems like your auxiliaries, the evac drives, they sit there, the block heater's on, you start them up, they run, but then when you need them, they just don't seem to work. I can think of 2 times on a Saturday morning, there was power problems, went to evac drives, and both times the auxiliary drive crapped out and we had to use the evac drive. You know, it's just the way it seems to go sometimes. Sometimes when a piece of machinery isn't used, you think, oh, it's not being used, it's all ready to go, and then it's almost worse. We had another issue with a person unloading from a conveyor and their free foot of their snowboard got caught in the safety plate at the top. The conveyor stopped, but their foot was stuck. They couldn't get it out, the boot. Lift maintenance had to attend and they had to actually use a pry bar to pry it open enough so they could get the person's foot out. They did their checks after. The opening distance was correct. It didn't exceed the code requirements, which is a maximum opening of 85 millimeters. The switch triggered within the 10 millimeters required by code. It just happened to be the way that boot went in there on the free foot of the snowboarder, it got stuck in there. You know, I'm going to ask for some feedback on this at the spring seminar because I've heard this from a few other areas. This is also a good reminder to you lift mechanics out there. Don't be kicking the safety plate with your hiking boot or your work boot to test it, because I know of 3 times where that's been done. The person got their foot stuck and they fell over and they couldn't get their foot out. And in 2 of the occasions, they had to call on the radio for help to come and help them get their foot out because they couldn't reach the controls and their foot was stuck in the safety plate. So that's not a good thing. You might get hurt, and it'll also put you on the beer list. Because as soon as you call for help on the radio, I don't know, at ski areas I always worked at, if you needed help for something like that, you went on the beer list. So, you know, we encourage everybody to keep reporting incidents to us. So just a couple quick pictures here. This was a derailment on a T-bar caused by a swinging carrier. This is the uphill shiv assembly. You can see the carrier on the downhill side here that caused it. We're not for 100% sure. We think it was someone going wide at the unload area and then letting go of it, the swinging T. But it stopped, landed in the cable catcher. The drop shiv came down, hit the brake fork, and the ropeway stopped like it was supposed to. This here is a total derailment of a T-bar. If you look in the red circle, there's actually the T itself is stuck in the shiv assemblies. What it appears happened here was there was a stop for a drive fault on the T-bar. While maintenance was fixing the problem to restart it, some people that were on this T just jumped off. And because of where it was, when the T retracted, it got stuck in the shiv assembly. When the fault was cleared, they started up. But unfortunately, because the T was stuck in the shiv assembly, it acted as a pry bar, and the cable came right off the shiv assembly, missed the rope catcher. The ropeway stopped, but as you can see, almost came down and hit the ground. No injuries as well on this one, but it was a close call. And a couple other ones we've had. We had a mountain-wide power failure that required all the ropeways to be switched to a vac drive. Anybody that's had to do that at any size ski area knows that's a big challenge when your whole crew is out there starting up everything and unloading all the ropeways. On this one, they got a low tension fault that they couldn't clear that required a manual evacuation of the 3 carriers. They were able to figure out what the issue was, and they know for future times if this happens, what they have to do. But probably in this case, they did the wise thing because they got the people off the ski patrol. They were ready to go. They didn't say, oh, we'll keep waiting, we'll keep waiting. So multiple incidents related to passengers trying to load the carrier late or getting hit by the carrier, coming in too late, 5 people trying to come in to get on a 4-person chair. Multiple incidents as well relating to unloading early or late or jumping from the carrier near the safety gate. We've had a few this year, shoulder injuries, where people, they haven't got off, they stayed on the chair, they hesitate, and then they jump off. A lot of the time they land right on the safety gate. And then in that area, it can be, you know, a meter fall to the ground, unfortunately. So, you know, this is where the operators need to be outside talking to people. You know, if you see somebody, tell them, stay on the chair. Safety gate's, you know, going to stop the lift. We do get people that lift their feet. That's where the operators need to be paying attention. Hit the stop button. And we had a snowcat that backed into a tower. This is just a reminder, you should have a policy. If a snowcat hits your tower, you should also have policy for winch cats working around equipment. You should have policies for any equipment working around ski lifts. You know, over the years, we've had a garbage truck hit a gondola. We've had a concrete pumper truck in the summertime swing in and hit a chairlift when they were building some condos. It wasn't running, luckily, but still, you need to, if you don't have these, you need to think about those. Or if your area is getting bigger and you're starting to build stuff and that. In this one, they did the right thing. They let us know. They dug out the foundation. They had a good look. There was no displacement. There was no distortion. There was nothing. The alignments were all still good on the tower. But I have seen where there's been serious damage from a snowcat hitting a tower. So just a reminder. So at this point, I'm going to step aside, and Nav Shahal, who is the Provincial Safety Manager, is going to give you a quick update on what's been happening at the Safety Authority, or Technical Safety BC.
As you know. Yeah.
Safety Authority is our legal name.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome, Nav.
Yeah, you've done an awesome job explaining all of that. That's good. Okay, thank you, Dave. So in the next couple of slides, I just want to touch base on what are the organizational changes that have happened in our organization and what it means for the passenger ropeway industry and all the things that we are currently working on, or to touch base on the things that we have in mind for the future. So, this one, there you go. So we had a recent org change happen at Technical Safety BC, and it was more on the technical program side. So this chart here talks about that. So what has happened is statutory decision making has been streamlined, and the senior manager position has been consolidated into 2 managers. What we had before was each technology had its own safety manager, but we found that this was a better model to work off to bring the same level of statutory decision making across. So if you look on the right hand side of the chart here, that is where we fall under. So in my portfolio, I will have elevating, passenger ropeway, amusement devices, and rail. So to help me with all of this, my team still remains the same. So, and actually we have an addition to our team as well in the form of Cam Ryan, who's going to be working as a technical lead. Dave is there, Peter is there. So that is at the organizational level what the changes are. What does it mean for passenger ropeway industry? Actually, it doesn't change anything. The statutory decision making also remains the same, and your key points will also remain the same. You'll actually have one additional point of contact, that is Cam, for any. So we have additional bandwidth to provide services to the industry. So the impact on passenger ropeway industry is minimal. So, and if you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact. We'll be circulating in the next few weeks, or maybe by Canada West for sure, as to who to contact for what issues. So to provide you with, if you need inspection requests or you're looking for safety officer availability, who to call for technical related issues, who to call for licensing, permitting, education. So we were working on streamlining that, and hopefully by our Canada West Spring Conference, we'll have that information for you. So besides that, I will talk about, I'm so confused with this clicker. So other things is like some of the topics that Dave has already touched on is we will be working closely with the industry, with the Canada West Association, and even our partners across the Rockies in Alberta to figure out what is the best way to keep enhancing the passenger ropeway program. One of the initiatives Dave has already talked about is the lift courses. We're going to continue on that. Also, I would also encourage you to be more participatory in what we do. And because if we are going to design a program or make changes to an existing program, what we're always looking at it from our safety lens, that how can we make it better for the riders, for the mechanics. And I see the passenger ropeway industry is very passionate about what you guys do, and we would like more participation from you in developing things that actually can change the safety outcome. So I'm happy with the participation level, but I encourage more. We should do more. And we are not going to be designing things or doing things in isolation. It is more of a collaboration that we need to work on, and that way things that we put out are better received and actually make sense from an operations or a mechanics perspective as well. So with that, I am going to give it back to Dave. There you go, Dave.
Thanks, Nav. Thanks for your comments. So engagement opportunities. Passenger ropeway clients are the most engaged on Twitter, we found. We've been trying to engage with you in the ropeway side of it. Last fall, when we were inspecting some of the new ropeways, we posted some videos to our Twitter accounts with some comments on what we were doing, where we were at when we were doing the new gondola. We posted a video showing on the Harmony chair at Whistler, the new style safety bars they have, where there's an individual bar for each person on the 6th place. And there's a web tether that hangs down to make it easier for small kids to pull the safety bar down. You know, we're encouraging our safety officers to do more of this when they're out in the field. We're going to try this with amusement rides when we get out there in a couple of weeks doing them. And again, over the summer and into the fall when we're doing ropeway inspections. So people are engaged, they can see what we're actually doing out there. We had approximately 600 subscribers to our newsletter, which we think is great considering there's about 45 to 50 contractors. We think that's awesome, people logging in and reading our newsletter. We always trying to get the information to you, things you want to hear about. And we'll be at the Canada West. Come by our booth and see us. If you're not taking a course, come and see any of the presentations we do. We're having a BC only meeting again. You know, we encourage people. If you don't tell us what the issues are and any problems, we don't know. So we want your feedback. So you can reach us at passengerropeways@technicalsafetybc.ca. If you want to sign up so you get information, you can go to technicalsafetybc.ca. And lastly, we'll see if anybody sends any questions in.
At this point, we only have one question so far.
Okay.
The question is, the declarations for lifts that run summer and winter, do we have to do them twice a year?
No, only once. Oh, summer and winter? Yes, only once. Originally, the first time around, we were going to have you do them summer and winter for the seasonal year-round lifts, and we decided not to do that. You only have to submit them once in the fall. For the lifts that run continuously year-round, we asked they be submitted at the end of the year. So like Sea to Sky Gondola, the trams at Grouse Mountain, items like that. Okay.
We have no other questions.
Okay, well, we have no other questions. Feel free to email questions to myself, to the passenger ropeway mailbox, and we're always happy to answer them for you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.